today, we retain our clients at an 86% rate on a $66 million book. That's a pretty significant amount of revenue, right? Even moving the needle by 1%, north, could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. And so it's just been such a refreshing experience to use a platform that, A, it's simple, it's intuitive, it just works. B, when it doesn't just work, it gets fixed quickly. And C, when we identify something that makes it a little bit of an easier lift for us, it gets done. It's such a great feedback. We are a property and casualty insurance agency. We are about a $66 million book, serving the states of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana.
So you scheduled a call with us about 3 months ago. You basically wanted to set up an agent to send out renewal reminders, cancellation save agents, so to make sure that people who are on the insurance plans that they renew with you, payment reminders, onboarding agents. If you could maybe explain how was your process before working with us, and then we can compare it to now.
Yeah, so our process was we were using a different platform, which really wasn't necessarily designed for proper renewal follow-up template actions. Our process was a little bit cumbersome. It was inefficient. We had to go to 3 different platforms to kind of execute and take care of one customer touch point. And none of it was automated. So there was a lot of lift from our, retention team when trying to craft messages to elicit a response from our client base. It made it so much easier to figure out what renewals were high priority, what needed to be contacted immediately. It did the crafting of the emails for us, made it sound personal to each individual customer, which I think matters, especially at an agency of our scale. It's difficult to kind of create bespoke contact points, and templates are too impersonal. So it was really a huge help to give that personal feel without a huge lift on our side, right? The other thing I think it's done is it's given our leadership much more insights as to, number one, how many of these we're getting through. We had no visibility to that prior. It was very difficult for us to quantify the amount of time we thought we were spending on this versus what was actually occurring, how many of these we were actually reaching, how many of these calls were successful or not. And it's given us a lot of great data to say, no, we are getting through these. This is the percentage of what we've gotten through. These are the calls that went well. These are the customers we were able to save. These are the customers that maybe we weren't able to save. And I think it's good to give us, on a longer term scale, great intelligence on whether or not the resources we're pouring into this process are worth it. Is it moving the needle in terms of reducing churn and increasing client retention? Those are things that would have been impossible to quantify prior to working with you guys.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's very common, especially during in follow-up messages, payment reminders, etc., that there's no personalization at all. And so with AI, you could literally take the information from that lead, whatever program they bought or whatever specific information that would allow to fully personalize that message. And I'm assuming that once you start using that, you would see a higher reply rate, a higher retention rate. Have you noticed any sort of changes in regards of that?
Not just yet, only because that's a slow moving number and it takes a little bit of time to bake in. What we have noticed though is, we've had better conversations as a result of the platform for a couple of ways. Number one, if we're reaching out on a phone call, we're able to access, information, high level information on what's going on with this policy's renewal right away, right? If we are sending out an email or a text message, the personalized message that's going out to the client, if that client responds to us, it's starting the conversation off on a positive foot because it didn't seem cold and impersonal. It felt real. It felt like my staff was taking the time to craft this individual message, for you, David, for you, Alessandro. And I think that when you're talking about something that can be as fraught as client retention, customer satisfaction is such a delicate thing. I mean, it arrives on foot, but leaves on horseback, right? And anything that we can do to frame those conversations in a positive light up front really kind of lays the groundwork for more constructive conversations. If there is an issue, we're starting off on a positive foot as opposed to maybe a neutral and negative foot. So I'm confident that once we see some of the data it's more of a lagging indicator coming in, I'm very confident we'll see an uptick in our client retention by virtue of those factors.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. And I remember last time we spoke, like even for you, like even a small percentage of increase in retention, like in terms of numbers, how does that look like for your company then?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, today we retain our clients at an 86% rate on a $66 million book. That's a pretty significant amount of revenue, right? Even moving the needle by 1%, north, could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, and that's real revenue that this organization can use to, fuel, other things, whether or not it's marketing spend or internal incentives, programs that are dedicated to enhance, work-life balance, the works, right? And when you're I would say we're either a small, medium-sized business or a large, small business, depending on how you want to look at it. And when you look at it through that lens, little movements on big numbers make such a huge difference, and it really opens up a lot of avenues that wouldn't be possible, right? I mean, if we can move that number, say, from 86 to 87 or 86 to 88 even, we can think of what's possible, with that additional revenue in our war chest. How can we make the lives of our employees better, right? How can we increase employee retention? How can we increase customer outreach? How can we increase our marketing, or, maybe add a tool to our tech stack that, helps us take another jump forward. Maybe we go from 88 to 89, right? Or maybe we increase our sales by a few percentage points because we were able to bring something into the organization that, we weren't able to previous. So, I mean, it means everything, honestly. And, especially at our size, little movements can make such a huge difference.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. Before working with us in terms of AI utilization in the company, what were you doing prior, and have you seen any changes within the company once we have deployed these agents? Is your team using more AI, or yeah?
I don't know that it's increased the use of AI. I mean, what we were using prior was really focused on sales call scoring, maybe some customer service call scoring, and trying to use that to, gain insights to how our processes were being executed. So it was very much at a tactical level based on conversations, right? I think what I've noticed since we started using these platforms is that the work doesn't seem as daunting. What I mean by that is my team, when they log into the platform, they can see exactly how many tasks they have to do, right? How many are outstanding? What should be prioritized, right? I think sometimes when you're talking about a client base of our size, you can get a little bit of paralysis because you don't know where to start, right? And the platform that you were able to build for us takes that out of the equation. So it's very easy. It's accessible. It takes the fear out of it. These are the things I should prioritize. And then once I start using it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me so long to send this text message or that email. No, it's all there for you. A couple of clicks and we're done if they don't pick up the phone, or even if they do pick up the phone, a couple of clicks and, a follow-up, maybe they were busy. And it just takes the intimidation factor out of a task. Like, I have to call all of these people that are renewing in this given month. And it breaks it up into parts that feel so much more manageable to the end user. And I think that means so much, because sometimes I feel like people don't fully grasp what they're capable of doing. Sometimes because that first step is the most difficult one, right? Think about, I want to get in shape. Okay, well, how are you gonna do that? You're gonna go to the gym. Well, oh my God, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm sick. I don't really feel like it. I'll go next day, sooner or later, you never start, right? And this sort of takes that sort of daunting, okay, where do I start out of it? So it's like, okay, here's a roadmap. We start here, we go here, we do this. You can see the progress as you go. So you get that sort of little dopamine hit that makes it feel like you're making progress toward a goal. And that creates a really great positive feedback loop. So, the other thing I'll say too is that I think that what I can see happening is maybe we use AI agents for communications that are not limited to just renewal activities or cancellation saves or things like that. Maybe if we have to send a complex message to a client, the team is a little bit more likely to use an AI agent to clean it up, make it a little bit more personal. Hey, take this message. Can you craft it for a person who's been with us for 25 years, right? Maybe giving them some insights to how to maybe leverage the technology in a different context. But again, it takes the mystery out of it, right? And it shows them what's possible.
Yep. No, that has always been the goal. To like a lot of business owners that we speak with, they kind of like they know that AI can solve certain problems, but yeah, for a business owner who has actually implemented AI, then there's much more ideas that come out, and you really get an understanding of how this can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I'll add is that I think from our perspective anyway, the use of AI in a business context, we try to look at it as not as a replacement for anything that we're doing, any individuals, anything like that. It's a scaling tool. We can do more by leveraging technology. It's no different than having multiple monitors up instead of just working on your laptop screen, right? You're just able to be more productive and get through more tasks. And this is no different. An AI agent couldn't necessarily replace one of my team because you don't get that extensive lifetimes worth of knowledge and nuance and things like that. But what it does is it allows that person with all that individual, that individual knowledge, that tribal knowledge from the organization, and we can now reach more of our customers, give them better experience, right? That's win-win for everybody.
Yep. So essentially creating tools for your team to use and empowering them with these tools to make their role much more efficient.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's the way to use it.
Okay, great. And in terms of like data, because obviously a company of your size has a lot of data, were you able to already get any sort of benefits to analyze this data or get some more clarity on certain points?
Yeah. So I know that we're in the process of building out a more robust data set, our data platform that's going to give me some great insights on our marketing and targeting. But even with the suites that are up and running, again, to be able to see, okay, we have called 100% of the people who are renewing in July. Now we can match that up with, what our retention numbers look like, say next month, right? Did it move the needle? Why or why not? Okay, my team tagged 95% of these as saved or good calls and only 5% as bad calls, yet our retention number didn't move. Okay, do we have now that helps point me in the right direction like a compass. Do we have are we having as thorough of a conversation as we could have in these conversations, right? Or does my team understand what good looks like in this space? Maybe not. Maybe there's some work we have to do from a process standpoint, right? So I think early on, number one, it's given my managers some insight as to how people are spending their day. We can quantify it. We can see, okay, you've made 424 phone calls for renewals in the month of July. That's X per day. Of those X per day, Y were positive conversations. That's great. When we get enough of those data sets in month over month, we can establish a baseline. Okay, the average rate of good conversation is X. You are above or below that. Why or why not? Right. I'm really excited as far as the possibilities for that, because I think that once we start to understand what's happening in these conversations, and again, if we were to listen to all of these, it would take months, right? To listen to 1 month worth of conversation would take one person a long time. And this though kind of gets rid of some of the noise and allows us to see, okay, end result looks like X. Did Y occur? If so, why or why not, right? And that's the bit I'm really, really excited about, because it's going to allow us to iterate our processes and know what to work on and sharpen up.
Yep. No, for sure.
One other thing I'll say really quickly is that with respect to the cancellation save suite, this is a data insight, but it's not maybe what you might think. The perception of the team prior to using this was that every week when they would get this file sent to them or get this audit sent to them is that there are, oh my gosh, there's hundreds of names on here and it's so big and it's so daunting. And when we started using this, what I think we were able to show people is that, yeah, every time we run it, there's really only like 25 new names on here. It's not that much new. It's mostly the same people, or somebody who's on the list 10 days ago that's still on the list, valuable for sure. But again, it changed a perception. We changed bad perceptions by using good data. And this was able to say, okay, 25 extra a time, that works out to what, 4 a piece? That's nothing, you know? So again, it takes the intimidation factor out of it. And it's like, oh, it's not that hard. Now all of a sudden I have confidence to get through it instead of feeling like it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. How do you see like your industry and the company evolve in the next 6 months with all of these systems?
Well, I think we'll be working smarter. I think that, again, I fully expect there to be positive movement on the retention side. I think that we'll be able to figure out, again, we invest a lot on the customer service side of things because it's so important, right? We can sell as many policies as we wish, and if everybody leaves out the back door, we didn't grow, right? So I think that it's going to help us really understand, okay, we put X number of resources into this, is it moving the needle? And if it's not moving the needle, then the second question is, why do we do it, right? Can this maybe be automated? Do we even need to do it at all? And then maybe we can take those, hours that people are spending and put it in a different area that's going to move the needle, right? And I think as time goes on, we're going to have to automate more tasks, right? When you do speak with a client, we want to be able to give them like that white glove service that they expect because there's so much competition in our space. To do that, you have to be able to multiply an individual's efforts, which means we're going to look for every possible technology edge that we can find to build a tool to help people take care of I don't want to call it busy work, but like the rote repetitive work, so that more of their mental bandwidth can be spent on delivering that white glove service or applying critical thinking to a complex problem, right? So I can see us iterating the tools we already have and then looking for new tools to fill in niches that either already exist or that we will discover through the iteration process, to then again we can automate and simplify some of the repetitive tasks so that the effort and the energy goes to more mission critical things that really move the needle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, focus on the highest leverage tasks instead of the low leverage ones. The rote and repetitive stuff that we know that we're doing all the time, that's the stuff, if we can automate it a little bit, just make it an easier lift. Maybe it took us 4 hours, now it takes us 2. Times 8 people, times 5 days a week, that's a lot of time that we got back now that we can do something with, right? We can make that extra phone call, we can take that extra 10 minutes to investigate a real complex challenge. We can, dedicate a little bit more time to training and development, which means that the next complex task, maybe the 10 minutes takes 5, and that got us more time back. And again, we get that positive feedback loop going that really unlocks great possibilities for us. Yeah, no, that's great to hear. Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I want to thank you for that because, David, when we've given you feedback, you have been absolutely the turnaround time when we give you feedback to correct something or evolve something has just been really impressive, honestly. And especially in the tech space, when you're used to things maybe taking a few days, you usually turn around things for us within minutes, if not a couple of hours. So thank you to you, because I think what that does, my team's not shy about giving feedback, but what it does is it gives them confidence that feedback gets acted on. And I think so many times, no matter the size of your business, sometimes feedback goes into sort of a black hole, like nothing happens with it, or maybe one idea kind of gets addressed. And with you guys, it's just been such a great experience. And I think that's given the team, it gives them confidence to use the platform, knowing that if something breaks or if they find out something that maybe we need to change from a quality of life perspective, or maybe this just isn't working the way we intend to, they're confident it's going to get fixed, which makes them more willing to use the system. You know, I mean, like, I'm sure you guys have run into things where it's like, this doesn't really work that well, and I know it's not going to get fixed, so why am I using it? Why bother, right? And so it's just been such a refreshing experience to use a platform that, A, it's simple, it's intuitive, it just works. B, when it doesn't just work, it gets fixed quickly. And C, when we identify something that makes it a little bit of an easier lift for us, it gets done. You know, it's such a great feedback loop and atypical for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, David is I keep on saying this, but David is a legend for sure. Yeah, and the best, like we say this to all of our clients, but positive feedback, negative feedback, any sort of feedback like that just helps to progress the whole build as quickly as possible. So yeah, it has been super useful to have like these sync calls, and any sort of feedback you or your team has, you can always send it to us, and we'll always make those changes. And even if you have some new ideas, or someone in your team is like, oh, you know what, like this would be actually very useful for us to build and integrate, feel free to just send it in the Slack channel, send a voice message, whatever you want, and we can get it done. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I will. I'm actually playing some catch up on some emails, and I think there's a couple in there with some ideas, so you might hear from me in a couple of hours.
Please, as much ideas as you have. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, yeah. Thank you for your time, Bryan.